Hello friends, welcome to this hip lengthening, opening and lubricating yin based flow. We're going to begin with some gentle movement, a bit of nerve flossing and hydration for the hips, and then we'll move into some longer held postures so that we can really get into the fascia and create some space and really start to feel that sense of freedom within the pelvic bowl, particularly the front and the sides of the hips. Now in terms of props, you may like a bolster or otherwise just a pillow, anything soft and squishy that you have lying around. And then you might also like some blocks. These are going to be helpful if you have particularly tight hamstrings or lower back. These are just going to kind of lift the earth up a little higher and help you feel more supported. So feel free to pause the video and go and get those things should you need. And then when you're ready, meet me in a tabletop position. And given this is more of a gentle yin style of class, feel free to support your hands and wrists on your bolster or your pillow here, just for a little bit of support. It's also going to give you a little more length through your spine. Nice. Give me 1 second here while I just start my watch, just so I can keep a track of our time. And then from our tabletop position, we are going to start really gently with some cat-cows, but we want to think about initiating these from the pelvic bowl. So as we find our cat here, think about the movement starting from that tuck of the pelvis, and then that ripple coming up the spine as you move chin to chest and spread the shoulder blades apart. And then as we find our cow, we want to again start with the pelvis, find that anterior tilt here, as we scoop the heart forward and lift the gaze. So again, from the hips or from the pelvis, tucking and rounding as we breathe out. And then scooping down and then up as we breathe in. Let's go for one more round like that. Tuck and round. And then scoop and lift. Right, so we're now going to turn this into more circles. So we're going to circle the hips out towards the left and then drop them down towards your yoga mat. Circling them then around to the right and drawing them back towards your heels. So just drawing some nice big juicy circles here with the hips. Starting to gently warm up this area and find a little bit of length through those hip flexors at the front there. Really nice. When you're ready, we can reverse this motion, coming back the other way. We're not looking to move too quickly here or do anything that feels kind of jarring. This isn't about sharp movement, it's about gentle fluid. Really nice. Okay, and from there we're going to find big toes together, knees nice and wide as we guide the hips back towards a child's pose. Breathe it out. And then as we breathe in, we're going to rock it forward, finding that tabletop shape again. We can keep the big toes together here. So inhale, guide the hips back. Exhale, rocking it forward. Really nice. Let's find two more. Finding a gentle engagement here of the abdomen by drawing that lower belly in towards the spine. And we want length through the spine, especially the upper body, as we draw the shoulders away from the ears. Really nice. Once more, guiding it back to child's pose here. Just taking a beat, taking a breath in this child's pose. Breathing in, sending the breath down into the pelvic bowl and the glutes. And then exhale as you sigh and soften. Really nice. And then we're going to ripple back up. Come back to that neutral position with your legs, so knees under hips. We're going to do a little bit of flossing of our hips here. So 4-part movement that we do with our breath. I'm just going to turn so that you can see me a little more front on. As we breathe in, we're going to draw our right knee towards kind of the center of our chest. And then as we breathe out, we're going to thread that right foot in front of the left knee so that we're crossing right knee in front of left. And then gently send those hips back. And here we're just coming back as far as feels right for you to feel some sensation, particularly in the outer hips. And then we reverse that motion. So as we inhale, we come forward, drawing the knee to chest. And then exhale, bringing it back to tabletop. Really nice. Let's stick with the same side. We'll do 2 more. Inhale, knee comes in. Exhale, threading it in front. Send those hips back, nice and heavy in the pelvis. And then reverse it. Inhale, bring the knee in. And exhale, send it back. Really nice. Once more here. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. And breathing out, really nice. And then just shake the hips side to side here like you're wagging your tail. Perhaps take a moment to notice how one side feels comparative to the other. And then we'll take this on the second side. So on that breath in, draw the left knee in towards the chest. And then cross that foot in front of the back knee, finding that little crisscross of the knees as we gently guide those hips back. Feeling your edge and then reversing that. Knowing that it's likely you'll be able to come a little deeper with each round. As we slowly start to open through the hips and drop into the fascia a little more in a way that feels sustainable and comfortable. We're not pushing or forcing or striving in a yin class. We're just allowing time and gravity and this kind of like gentle momentum to do the work for us. Really nice. And when you've done 3 on that side, just release that out once again, finding that little sway side to side. Beautiful. Okay, and then we're going to set up now for our yin style poses. So you may like to bring your bolster into the center of your mat as a pillow, something nice and squishy to sit on. As we find a cross-legged position here, and we're looking with this cross-legged to cross so that the top knee is stacked on top of the bottom foot. So we don't necessarily want to be in like towards a lotus shape, and we don't want to be so cross that our knees are up into our chest. We want to try and have kind of like that stacking of knee and foot. And if you like, if it feels more supportive, you can slide a block or something squishy between the foot and the knee. That's going to create a little more space there for you. The bolster under the sit bones gives us a little more length through the spine, so go for that if you need it. And then when you're ready, breathe in here, find that length through the spine. And as you breathe out, we're going to gently hinge forward from the hips as we walk the hands out. And here we want to try and stay nice and heavy, nice and anchored through the hips, almost as if we have like a harness on around our hips, and that is anchored into the earth. So as we move forward, we feel almost like that locking and that pulling down. That's going to keep us really heavy in that region. Nice, and then perhaps sway side to side here as we gently ease into the stretch. Eventually, when you're ready, finding some stillness, you may like to take a prop underneath your forehead here if you're down low enough to need that support. Softening through the fingers, the elbows, the shoulders, the jaw, and then finding your breath. Breathing in through the nose as you fill up the back body, the ribs. And breathing out through the nose as you soften here, feeling that melting into the hips, maybe a tiny little bit of response here as things start to unravel and unknot. Let's take 2 more deep rounds of breath here. Now, as your next inhale arrives, we'll slowly, gently lift the body up and just tune in here to what your body might like in response to that pose. Maybe you want to take your feet quite wide and find a little bit of windshield wiper motion side to side. Just do whatever feels right here. This is certainly what my body is asking for. Nice. And then we're going to switch sides. So you need to remember which leg you had on the bottom and do the opposite here. Flexing slightly through the toes, maybe even grounding through the outsides of the feet, noticing how that activates these muscles in the hips a little more. And then once again, find that length, breathe in. As you exhale, hinging it forward here, taking your time, allowing your body to feed back to you where it's at. And when you get that message that it's kind of at its peak, you can feel the sensation, but you can still breathe deeply and freely. Then that's your kind of cue to settle in. Allow the head to drape forward. And again, find those 3 nice deep rounds of breath here. And on your next inhale, again, gently lifting the body up. Doing whatever feels right in response. Maybe you want to lengthen the legs out long, circle through the ankles. Maybe that windshield wiper again. Do whatever feels right. And then we're going to come onto our backs for a reclined figure four. So just moving your props out of the way here. Coming to lie down on your back. And then just making sure that there's lots of length first in the spine by tucking the chin slightly, finding the length through that upper back and neck area. And then with the sole of the left foot firmly on the ground, we're going to inhale and lengthen our right foot up to the sky. And then we'll cross that foot over that top leg. And we want to gently here guide that knee forward and away, flexing the toes of that foot in the process as we start to open into the outer hip a little more here. Now this is level one. If this is giving you really strong sensations, then stay right here. Otherwise, we can elevate here by floating the left foot off the floor and holding either the back of the thigh or maybe the top of that shin. We just want to make sure that we do still have the lower back connected with the mat here, and that we're flexing and flaring through the toes of that leg that's hooked on top of the knee. And again, if it feels right for your body, maybe you want to sway and rock a little bit as you ease into this shape. Eventually, as you're ready, finding some stillness for a few rounds of deep belly breath. Doing a little scan of the body, making sure that we're not holding tension where we don't need to be. In the face, the shoulders, down the arms, perhaps the belly. Making a conscious effort here to soften and release. The word effort doesn't feel quite right. Or a conscious choice or commitment to just soften and release a little deeper as we take one more round of breath. Nice. And then if you have that left foot elevated here, returning it to the mat. We're now going to find a half happy baby. So this leg that's lifted is going to come back towards your right side of your body. And here you want to think about the right knee dropping into the right armpit. We're going to stamp the foot onto the ceiling, so draw the toes back. And then you can either hold the thigh, the outside of the shin, or maybe you can hold the outside of that foot. There's also the option here to take like a tie or a strap or a bathrobe tie and wrap it around your foot. That's another nice way to create a little more space in the body. Nice. And then from this half happy baby, we're going to gently pump the leg. As we inhale, we're drawing that knee down towards the armpit or kind of out slightly. And then as we exhale, lead with the foot as we lengthen through that leg. We're not necessarily working the leg too dead straight here unless you have a big range of motion in your hamstrings. It's more about just feeling the stretch. The length of our hamstrings or the flexibility there 100% affects how our hips feel. And it also feeds into that lower back. So any lower back tightness or hip tension is often linked to the hamstrings. So we're just kind of giving those a little bit of love here. And as we also open through that hip. Next time you find yourself in half happy baby, just settling in here as you get nice and heavy through that right shoulder. Perhaps you want to anchor the left hip here with your hand, and maybe you can lengthen that leg straight just for one round of breath. Nice. And then we're going to cross that leg over the body, coming into a reclined twist. Conveniently, my bolster is already in the right place, but if you like, take that bolster to the left of your body so that you can rest that right shin on it. If this is too much for the lower back with the base leg lengthened, then just draw that up as well and place that on the bolster. Remembering that gaze can be away from your body or towards the legs here, whatever works. So I'm going to turn this way so that you can hear me a little better. So here we're loosening through the spine, finding that twist, but we're also getting a stretch on the outside of that hip and into our IT band. Here, try and melt that right shoulder blade down and breathe deep into the belly. Nice. And then with a tiny little bit of core activation when you're ready, coming back through center, perhaps drawing both knees in now. Some little circles with the legs or a rock and a sway side to side. And then we'll head into that second side. So we're beginning with our figure 4. Right foot now on the floor as we lengthen left heel to sky and then cross that foot over. And again, just allow your body to feed back to you here when it's at its capacity in terms of moving that knee down and away. And then we can stay right here, or we can float that right foot now, holding the back of the thigh or the top of that shin. Again, if it feels right, just kind of gently guide yourself deeper by swaying and rocking across the lower back. Eventually, when you're ready, finding some stillness as we actively flex and flare through the foot and the toes of that left foot. So often when we're working with the hip region, we can have kind of niggly emotions or frustrations arise. In yoga, we do talk about how emotions are stored within the hips. So when we open them up like this, sometimes we kind of get a flood or a rush of stress and tension that's been stored within this area as we let it kind of start to flow through the body. So if you're noticing that, can you be with it, acknowledge it with compassion, and know that in moving it through with compassion and gentleness, you are creating space once again in your body. It's okay to feel these things. The importance is to allow yourself to fully feel them so that we can then discharge them and move them. So with that said, now we'll take the foot back to the floor if you have it elevated and find that half happy baby. Starting to gently pump the leg, leading with the heel. Almost imagining here as if we are just kind of flushing out anything that is heavy or dense or sticky that might have been stored in this region. Nice. Next time you've dropped that knee down, just holding it, perhaps lengthening the right leg long. Continuing to breathe nice and deep, sending that message to your body that you're safe, that it's okay to be here, to feel this little bit of discomfort. All is well. Noticing how as you allow yourself to soften into this discomfort, it starts to dissipate and dissolve. And then when you're ready, crossing that knee over the body, perhaps placing that bolster or that pillow ready to be caught, or ready to catch your shin, I should say. You can always draw that base leg up also if you need to. Melting that left shoulder blade down now as you breathe into the belly. Nice. And then when you're ready, gentle core activation once again as you roll up through center. We'll prepare for our final position here, which will be a supported bridge. So we're going to take our pillow or our bolster and gently press the feet into the earth so we can scoop the pelvis up just enough to slide that squishy thing under your pelvic bowl, giving all of your weight to it. And if you've got any feedback here from the lower back, just readjusting, maybe scooping the tailbone down and forwards towards your heels to create a little more space here. And then you may like to bring your hands to your hips here as a little connection point. So if this is enough, stay here, or we can lengthen the legs long so that we bring more length into the front of the hips. And this is particularly nice if you spend a lot of your day sitting at a desk or in a car with babies. We're just kind of counteracting that shape that we have when we're sitting by lengthening here through the front of the hips. So again, settle in, soften what is able to soften. Finding your breath. If you find that your mind has wandered, bringing your awareness back to the sensations in your body, no matter how subtle they might be. Just the gentle opening and lengthening that's happening, the freeing of knots. Notice how the breath supports this process. And then from here, my friends, when you're ready, if you have the legs lengthened, bring the feet back in. Press through the heels so that you can just lift those hips enough to slide the bolster down now underneath your knees. Just lengthening everything out long as we find our Shavasana. Perhaps tucking the shoulder blades, tucking the chin, palms to sky, feet roll out. And we'll take 2 nice deep breaths here together as we finish. Breathing in through the nose, filling up right down into the belly. And then an audible sigh out through the mouth. Beautiful. One more round. Breathe it in. And sigh it out. And this, my friends, is where I will leave you. But please feel free to stay in your Shavasana as long as you like, as long as you have. And when you have finished, move gently and easily. Drink plenty of water. And I hope that your hips are feeling a lot more cared for and nourished after that exercise. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, namaste.